I read a lot, and I'm going to have to say that I have never experienced a pagan book anything like Anatomy of a Witch, written by Laura Tempest Zakroff.
If you would like to learn about fairy folklore, delve into modern fairy faith spirituality, and explore fun and fanciful fairy-themed events, please subscribe to Fairy Fortunes for new videos every Friday.
Hello, my fair friends. I'm Ruby Ruse, and welcome to Fairy Fortunes. On today's episode, I really want to tell you about a book that I had the privilege to read, and has been one of the most interesting pagan occult-minded books that I have encountered in a very long time. And the book is Anatomy of a Witch by Laura Tempest Zakroff. But not only is she an amazing author, she is also a professional visual artist as well. And she also is a dancer. And in this particular book, Anatomy of a Witch, all of those elements come together. Not only do you get to read this amazing work that she's put out, you experience her visual artistry as well through the sigils and the visual elements of the book. And also it's a book that is highly physical. It really encourages you to incorporate movement into your rituals. It was just a fascinating read. The best way that I can explain to you the subject matter of Ms. Zakroff's book is to use the artist's own words herself. She says that it is a journey of self-examination and magical exploration, and she describes it as a manual to the most magical tool in your possession, your body. I've noticed that in the magical community that people seem to be starved for more advanced forms of magic. I'm not against beginner books. I think that there's a lot of value to beginner books, and I think a lot of magical writers tend to present from a beginner standpoint because they're trying to introduce people into their specific mode of magic. And there is a little bit of that element here in Anatomy of a Witch. However, I really feel that this is more of an intermediate audience because Ms. Zakroff is inviting us to delve deeper into our own personal practice. She's not really introducing her practice, although it's very clear that she uses these techniques herself. She's inviting these tools to be used to really deepen your personal understanding. So I wouldn't say that a beginner or a novice initiate wouldn't find anything useful of this book or would find it too beyond where they are in the present. But I wouldn't call it a beginner book because I think this is really a book that is for established magical practitioners. How the book is structured is that each chapter focuses on an aspect of the physical body. It is the physical body, but it's also in a metaphoric context as well. So the first chapter works with witch lungs, which of course has a lot to do with breath work, but it's also about tapping into the element of air and the thought of communication. The next chapter, Witch Heart, does talk about what is inspiring to us, but it also is very focused on physical motion, which here is where I really feel that her background in dance really shines through in this particular chapter. The next chapter is called The Serpent, and that deals with more carnal and primal instinctual behaviors that we have. Next is the chapter on witch bones, which of course applies to our balance, our stability, but also has that metaphoric concept of tradition. The next part of the witch anatomy that she addresses, she names the weaver, which I really loved that imagery of weaving everything together, because that is the realm of the mind and wisdom. And so that mind connects all of those parts of the body and directs and flows the energy of it all. And then finally, she focuses on loving the whole of the body. And it doesn't just end with going through the anatomy of the body. It also spends a great deal of time about being in the present and incorporating and acknowledging all of the things that you learned about your body and really learning how to care for yourself. And in that, she also talks about the body as being a home of personal deity, about recognizing your inner divinity of yourself, and having that be a sacred act is to care for yourself and your physical body. As I was reading this book, I really felt a connection and a correlation to my fairy faith spirituality. She talks about nature not having a motive, that it simply is. And if you've been subscribed to this channel and watching some of my videos, you know that the fairy spirits that I work with are neither good nor bad. They're both and neither at the same time. They simply are. I often say that in the fairy languages, there are no words for good and evil. The fairy spirits say zoebo, which means so be it, it is. So when I read in the book that in her opinion, nature doesn't have a motive, it simply is, I just was like, yes, I believe that. That is so true for me. And another thing that I really appreciated and loved about this book is that she refers to not only the good and the positive things that you can learn from delving deeper into your practice and learning how to appreciate the aspects of your physical form. She also talks about those like not so nice things. Like she talks about like the bodily functions that nobody wants to talk about a little bit. And she talks a little bit about the shadow and how that all of that is completeness and wholeness, and that the dark is not something that should be avoided or shunned, that it's just as important as the more exciting and uplifting aspects of the human body. And she talks about how light is not inherently good, that light can cause damage just as the darkness can cause damage as well. So there's balance and there's two sides, and they're both important to the whole. Fairy faith spirituality really wasn't the focus of the book, but I just really felt that it resonated and correlated and really helped me delve deeper into my personal practice. So one of the few things that I felt were not as inspiring in this book was that each chapter is correlated to a card of the major arcana in tarot. Now, I have practiced tarot. I think tarot is a fine form of divination. It's just not personally my favorite kind of divination. I just think that there are other options out there, and I do think that the pagan and occult experience is a little oversaturated with tarot, so I just personally found the addition of the tarot cards just not something that resonated with me personally. But if you love the tarot, then this would probably be another reason to check out this book. I'd really like to know in the comments below what your personal favorite magical, pagan, or occult-minded book is. And let me know how, after reading that book, how did those concepts like change or fuel or deepen your own personal magical practice? I'm really curious. Please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. There were just so many things about this book that I really, really loved. And one of the best things was just how visually stimulating this work is. The artwork in it is just exceptional. And in addition to these amazing pieces of artwork that you can use as meditation, she also provides you with sigils for each chapter that you can carve onto candles, or you can put them in figurines, or you can meditate just on the symbols themselves. I found it really thought-provoking through the metaphor of these images. In the Witch Bones sigil meditation, I made all these interesting discoveries. I had all of these visions of tradcraft or traditional witchcraft. The image of the stang really came through for me. I had these really intense visions of animal spirits. One of the animal spirits that really came through profoundly for me in the Witchbone sigil was that of the rabbit. I wonder why. I wonder why the rabbit is so important to me. But also in that sigil, I had a strong vision of a fox. And I found that really unique and interesting because I have never worked with a fox spirit before. It dawned on me that it was through working with animal spirits, like the energy of the animal, if you will. Like, what is the energy of rabbit, of all rabbits, of the spirit of everything that is rabbit? What does that mean? That was actually one of the very first practices that I did, moving down into a very clear pagan spiritual practice. And I just found that so interesting that here is the witch bones, which is supposed to be the foundation and the traditions. And as I was having this meditation, I kind of got sidetracked. And I was like, oh, I want to bring this concept of animal spirits to my traditional witchcraft circle. Like, I want to design a ritual for them. And so I was like, well, okay, bring it back. We're meditating on the sigil. In her book, she just offers so many options to explore these concepts. She gives you the sigils, she connects you with different rituals. She also has these really insightful journal prompts. She's not just writing at you, she encourages you to create words on your own and be a part of the creative process. It's just amazing. So one of my favorite elements of this was an exercise called Power Words. And in this exercise, she encourages you to look at words that have specific meanings for you. Like, she asks you to explore what a beautiful word is. And for me, the beautiful word was lovely. I'm laughing because I didn't realize until this exercise how often I say the word lovely. And I don't say have a nice day usually. Usually what I say to people is have a lovely day. Or if someone shows me something that I'm excited about, I say, oh, how lovely. Like, that is the most beautiful word to me. And obviously beauty is such an important concept to me, and is very much connected, I think, to my fairy faith spirituality, and that rolled into that idea of pleasure. And I just thought it was so unique that I had no idea how important that concept was until I actually analyzed words that I use and what those words, what that meaning and what that purpose of that word really is for me. There are so many rituals in this book, and I really felt all of them had something unique and deep about them. But I think the one that I was most excited about was the Cauldron fountain ritual. There is ancient Celtic lore about 3 cauldrons in the human body. The first is the cauldron of warming. The second is the cauldron of motion. And finally, the third cauldron is the cauldron of wisdom. And she has created this ritual to cleanse and revitalize all of those cauldrons in our body. Not only did I feel like it was a very healing ritual to partake in, I just felt like you could almost use it as a way to raise power before a ritual. I really feel like there was an element of meditation there where the cauldron of warming really gives you that sense of balance and that sense of stability and fuel, and then rises up into the cauldron of motion. And I couldn't help but, when I was doing this ritual, I really couldn't help but rock back and forth. My body just wanted to move as I moved into the cauldron of motion. And then as you bring up the energy to the cauldron of wisdom, it's like all of your experiences, all of the things that you have done actually lead up to where you are in the present moment. And it was just this empowering ritual to be present in yourself, in your body, in all of your experiences that you've had. I just really loved it. I think that that's a ritual that I think will probably be a regular that I will do again and again. And the overarching message of this book, I feel, is summed up in her own words, where she says, "You are the builder, custodian, and resident deity. Taking care of yourself is an act of love and devotion." And that's kind of where she wants to take you on this journey, is that the individual, the person reading this book, you have so much to put out there into the world, and that you are a part of it and you do matter, and what you do has intention and purpose and creates lasting change on the world around you. I just thought it was fascinating. And looking at ourselves as an element of the divine, of being a divinity all on our own. I just thought that was just fascinating and something so worth exploring and delving even deeper into, and trying to embrace that and caring for that inner and unique divinity that we all possess. Be sure to check out the resources down below for the website of Laura Tempest Zakroff, and also her YouTube channel. She has this amazing YouTube channel where she actually does ritual workouts. It's fascinating. You should really check her out. Now, I had the privilege of interviewing this amazing author on my podcast, The Mystic Chat, with Chris Allen, Laura Gonzalez, and Luke Babb. So I do hope that you will check out that interview as well. And if you like the idea of going deeper with your own current magical practice, I think that you might also enjoy looking into what's called a depth year. And you can learn more about that process in my video, 8 Tips for a Successful Depth Year. And you will also find links to my website and all of my social media in the description box down below. And with that, have a magical day.